Rien ne doit être exclu. Nous ferons tout ce qu'il faut pour que la Russie ne puisse pas gagner cette guerre.
As the Russia-Ukraine war entered its third year, French President Emanuel Macron talked about sending troops on ground. These remarks made many jaws drop. Russia instantly responded to Macron, basically saying that such a move will lead to a direct war with NATO. And within the next few hours, several other NATO members scrambled to reject the notion, with the US, the top contributor of the military alliance, saying there won't be boots on the ground. These developments beg the question, is NATO a paper tiger? Or has the prospect of a war with Russia spooked the collective West? I'm Shivan Chanana. Welcome to Game Plan. Just a day after Macron's comments, the Russians responded, making it clear to the West that Russia was not going to take this lying down. The Kremlin hinted at a Russia-NATO conflict as an inevitability if NATO boots touched down on Ukrainian soil. After Russia's rejoinder, some of the NATO heavyweights began clearing the air and denied any plans of sending soldiers to Ukraine.
Ich habe gerade gesagt, boots on the ground.
Service members to fight in Ukraine.
The Slovak, Polish, Czech and Hungarian prime ministers were absolutely spooked when asked about Macron's remarks. All of them rejected the possibility of sending troops to Ukraine. Let's cut to Donald Trump now, the former US president.
NATO countries have to pay up. They have to pay their bills.
Trump was highlighting the huge gap in financial contributions of member countries to NATO. NATO nations had pledged to commit at least 2% of their GDP towards defense expenditure for continued NATO protection. But in reality, only 11 of NATO's members are abiding by it. The European Union had initially committed to send 1 million artillery shells to Ukraine by the end of March 2024. The reality is that just weeks from that deadline, EU has only managed to send 30% shells to Ukraine. And that's according to none other than the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky himself. Basically, Ukraine is on its own, pushed into battle by Western promises, but now left in front of a beast to fend for itself. Interestingly, the NATO bloc recently launched its largest military drills since the 1980s, named Steadfast Defender 2024. The drills were essentially to showcase NATO's muscle against Russia. But the irony is that just weeks into these drills, NATO nations have fallen apart like a house of cards at the first hint of an inevitable NATO-Russia conflict if they send troops to Ukraine. Don't forget the spooked faces of the Western leaders I showed you earlier. It is one thing to send another country money and weapons to fight a war that might make you look good and making high-sounding statements about unity, values, etc. But it's quite another thing sending your own young men and women to fight in another country's war against a formidable enemy. Not to mention that within NATO countries, there were disagreements on adding new members like Sweden and Finland, which took months to iron out. Now, you tell me, is the unity of NATO nations nothing more than a facade on paper with Ukraine a clear case in point? Was the hint of a direct confrontation with Russia enough to unravel the mighty NATO's united front? Let me know in the comments.